Today, wait, okay, there we go. Well, first of all, my name is Paula, and I am an INFP, and I also enjoy writing. I write novels too, and I work. My day job right now is I work as a writer for a news station. So on this channel, I mostly talk about things related to being an INFP or about things related to writing. And today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about um, some of the things that can happen when an INFP and an INFJ are either friends or in a relationship. Like, how how can those two personality types get along really well and have a successful relationship? Um, and I didn't really know the answer to this, so I had to do a little bit of research, and I'm gonna pull up my notes right now. My brother is an INFJ, and so I did base some of the pointers that I'm going to talk about on how things work with my brother. And also, I have a couple of friends too. One person who I'm unfortunately not friends with right now, just because I haven't seen them in a while, but who we got along really well, and a couple of other friends who are INFJs. So after like doing some research online and then kind of like thinking about my friends who are INFJs and my brother, I was like, okay, maybe I do have some things that I can offer some tips that would be helpful. So anyway, all that rambling aside, the first tip, and before I say any of that, I guess I should point out that if you probably already know this, but INFJs and INFPs typically get along really well because we're incredibly similar. Um, we both are very idealistic typically. And I say we a lot, but of course, everyone is different. So even though someone's an INFP, they may not correspond with or feel like they can relate to everything I'm saying because everyone's different, even if you are an INFP. But anyway, typically, INFPs and INFJs get along because we're both very idealistic. Um, we are pretty intent on helping people, like that kind of like I'm sure it's like this for most people in general, but helping people really does kind of like feed our soul. Like it makes us feel, it gives us a deep sense of inner peace. And we usually spend our lives searching for that kind of inner peace. So the way that we usually get that feeling is by going out of our way to help other people or to work for, sorry, that's my phone. I'm so rude, sorry. Or to like get deeply involved in causes that help other people in some way. And typically, INFPs and INFJs both will really, really devote their lives to these things more, maybe more so than the average person. So that's something that we usually have in common is that, I can't think of the word, that I guess volunteer spirit and like just really being all about helping people. Um, Also, because we're both introverts, even though INFJs usually, from what I've noticed, are really good about social interactions, they also are very keen on having time to themselves so that they can regroup. And in fact, usually being around like large groups of people will take a toll on them. Even though they like people and they enjoy socializing, they do tend to really enjoy taking some time with themselves to like recharge. And that's INFPs are very similar. It's just that probably even more so, we typically enjoy being alone. Um, yeah. So we may not be as social as INFJs. But the things that make us different, I think, are that INFJs are typically more traditionally logical than INFPs. And I say traditionally logical because INFPs are not illogical. We just, we have such a different way of viewing life often that it's difficult for people to understand why we, to follow our logic. That's all. But INFJs are very like, they're good at achieving goals. They're very good at achieving goals, like breaking big goals up into small attainable steps until they get where they want to go or where they want to be. So INFPs, even though we have a lot of ideas and goals and dreams, it's a little bit more tricky for us to find the right path to achieve those, because we get very distracted very easily, and um, because we tend to think a little bit differently, sometimes it's hard for us to see a clear path to get to reach our goals. Okay, so how can a relationship between an INFJ and an INFP be successful? One of the points that I found online was, and I think this is probably one of the most important ones, is for both to focus on squashing conflict or addressing it very quickly. And this is something that can easily fall by the wayside. Um, like, let's say we're talking about a relationship. In some relationships, couples just argue constantly. That's their thing, they argue. But oftentimes, INFPs, and this isn't always true, of course, but INFPs typically don't enjoy confrontation. Um, we we don't like arguing just for the sake of arguing. Now, I will say, I do have to say this, like, I actually enjoy debates. Debates about anything, I really enjoy. But when things get personal, when it turns into like an attack, where people are super sarcastic with each other and they kind of make fun of each other and it becomes like a personal attack, even if it's in fun, I don't like that because that feels like conflict to me. But just to debate about theories, philosophies, or whether DC is better than Marvel, those kind of debates, that's just fun to me. Like, it's a good banter. So I don't know, maybe other INFPs feel like that. And I find that I can enjoy those kinds of debates with INFJs often. But I've also found that when it comes to like outside of my brother, because we will argue about whatever, or at least we used to. Um, but outside of those debates, when it comes to like more serious things, um, we don't typically like to address serious conflict that is of a personal nature or that would affect our relationship. And I think it's because, for two reasons. One, INFJs and INFPs often both do the door slam thing when they fall out with someone. Like, I know when someone does something that I am not okay with, like morally, and by morally, I don't mean like, uh, I don't know, that sounded weird. I should use a different word. When someone does something that I feel like is a personal attack against me, I will, that sounds so dramatic, personal attack, but I will kind of like cut them off or cut them out of my life. Forgive them and be willing to move on, but I don't want to have anything to do with them ever again. And I think that a lot of times INFJs have the same tendency. And so when an INFP and an INFJ really, really click, they really, really like each other. And they don't want that anything to mess up that relationship. So a lot of times, at least this is the way I felt with my friends, because I'm subconsciously afraid of us having a falling out and me getting so angry that I'm like, okay, we're done. Because I don't want that. And I'm afraid it'll happen. I'd rather just not talk about whatever the problem is. But the suggestion that I looked up, it said that it is best to address conflict, but to do it, and this is the second tip, to do it in a way where you peacefully explain how you feel. Because the good thing about INFJs and INFPs is that both are very empathetic and they hate to see other people in pain. So if I'm an INFJ, for example, if that's me and my INFP friend, they said they were going to be here at like